What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about other factors involving the world, which could affect the markets to some extent, and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. We deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY. The offer ends very soon in just 8 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about the markets. So, as far as SPY goes, we're riding above our 20 EMA so far as one of our key supports. We also have support around that 563 area that's going to be key for us. So, that entire zone has been holding up so far. The question is, will we lose that and start dipping lower? Or will we end up getting a bounce off of this support to start pushing higher? I'll talk more about this in just a couple of minutes. I first want to break down some data. So tomorrow is going to be Monday, September 23rd, 2024. Please note that 15 minutes after the market ends up opening, we have the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMI reports coming out. This may cause some volatility, so get ready for all of this. And then besides that, we just have some bill auctions and a couple of Fed speakers, which is all very minor. We have Cash Card giving a speech also at like 1 p.m. But once again, nothing too crazy. For other pieces of news, just know that the market is currently greedy. Greed is making up the majority of sentiment. And momentum is still at greed because we're holding very well above our key supports. So that tells us that the market's very close to all-time highs. It's in this greedy phase and it's doing a good job. Now, the puts and call option ratio, however, is still at neutral because we did see some puts being bought on Friday. That caused us to shift a little bit in an opposite direction. And then that's what led to a neutral rating in terms of the options chain. Finally, the VIX is still a little bit more bearish looking. It's still dipping quite a bit. We'll see how that goes. For earnings, just know a couple of things. So we have very minor earnings for the most part, except for Thursday. Thursday is when we have Costco's earnings. That might cause some volatility for this sector, for retail and many others out there. So we'll see how it goes. But that could be worth playing if you guys are interested. When it comes to the news about the markets, now I just want to say that there's a lot of tensions that are going on in the Middle East right now. I just want to say that this has gone on for thousands of years. It's not like it's starting now. Excuse me. And it's very important. The US is obviously getting involved and it's very intense. So I really hope that things don't get way too tense from this point on. I don't want to see China getting involved. And that's going to be very big too if China gets involved with Taiwan. We're getting very close to the election, so tensions could continue to rise. I hope that doesn't end up being the case. And this might cause some fear for the markets. So it is possible we get a small dip because of this. But from a technical standpoint, right now the market has not lost critical levels and it's still holding very, very well. So there's a good chance the buyers will still try to defend it despite a small dip that could be coming. So, what is my view of the market? How do I think this is going to be going? The first thing I want to go over are the levels. You need to know the levels the market is going to be respecting before we end up determining the direction. So, if we're bearish, if let's just say there's like another big attack that happens, things are very tense, let's just say there's bad news, right? You're looking at the 20 EMA as our supports. 565, if that fails us, we're looking for 563. If that fails us, that's going to be our key support. This thing will be dumping a lot more and we could be re-entering the 550s. So I want to make that very, very clear. If we end up losing that 563 level, that's going to be a big sign of weakness. Now, if we're bullish, you want to see this continue to hold around 568. Even if we do get a small dip and get bought back up, if 568 holds us, we have the potential to go back up to the gap fill in the 570 area, maybe a little bit higher, and continue to hold up from here. Okay, so make sure you watch those levels. Do we hold 568 and this yellow trend line to remain more bullish, or do we lose our key support at 565 to start dumping to 563, then eventually much lower levels all the way down here? It all depends on what kind of reaction we get with the whole situation in the Middle East and also how well we hold our supports. So, with that being said, what I think is going to happen, and this is what my prediction would be, there might be a small dip coming. And as long as we hold this trend line, I still think that because we're holding the trend line right now, we will rebound and try to fill that gap. I find that's to be the most likely case. There's a good chance we do try to continue to hold up and consolidate in this range. I will change my view if we were to lose 565. However, my view could change, and then we'd be at risk of dipping to like 563 and lower. But right now, we're holding the trend line very, very well. Futures did not sell off too much, So there's a good chance the market will dip a little bit tomorrow morning, retest the trend line, maybe go a little bit lower, then get bought back up and slowly trying to fill this gap above and continue to hold up. That is the most likely case for SPY, in my personal opinion. Now, things could change, okay? Things could always change depending on these factors, but so far we're holding up. So the odds favor the market getting bought back up and trying to fill this gap. Okay, so there might be a small dip in a bounce coming tomorrow. We should try to hold up, but just to be safe, always watch your levels and be prepared for anything just to be safe. For ES, okay, I want to call out this support on the 20 EMA, meaning we broke the 20 EMA way back here in early September. We came up, we came close to it, then bounced. We came close to this, and then we bounced. We came close to this, and then we bounced again. We actually bounced off of it. So we're holding this key support. If we lose the 5734 to 5700 area over here, this like range, we're at risk of dumping all the way down to the 5680 area, if not lower. And if the 5680 zone fails us, we come down to fill the gap towards 5633. So watch those supports, okay? The 5700 area, 5680. If those fail us, we're going to be looking for a dump on ES. If we hold this support right here, 5737 tomorrow, if we hold this, we're looking for a nice rebound for that the 5800 area could be eventually coming. As of right now, we're holding support very, very well. There's a good chance we might revisit this and we might try to continue to hold up. As long as that support holds, I think that we could be making our way back up to about 5780 and continue to consolidate up here. I find that to be the most likely case. We kind of dip a little bit and rebound, and we continue to consolidate. That is most likely what we're going to try to do. But we'll see if that support holds just to be safe with all the tensions going on around the world. Now, Nvda is a little bit different. This is showing a little bit of weakness right over here. I wouldn't be surprised if we do dip a little bit more, but we're looking at 115 to 114 as our support zone. We have 118 as resistance, followed by 120. I think we might be dipping to about the 115 to 114 area to fill this gap down here. I think we might be coming down right over here, this 114 area. And then we could be looking for a nice bounce back up to about 118. So look for a little bit of a dip down here to fill this gap, and a bounce after. That is the most likely case. But if we end up losing 114, we could be dipping even lower, all the way down to like 112. I don't think it's going to be dipping that low unless we lose this key support. So it might just be that we're going to retest this trend line right here, the 114 area. Then we could try to bounce off that. We'll see if Nvidia tries to hold 114, but I do think it's going to dip a little bit and hopefully it tries to bounce. If we don't get the bounce, then we're going to be dumping a lot lower. So we'll see. But I think we might dip a bit and try to rebound as the most likely case. For Bitcoin, we are dipping a little bit. We're holding our 20 EMA as well in the 4-hour time frame. You guys can see it likes to do a thing where it dips a little bit below, closer to like the 50 EMA sometimes, and rebounds. We dipped a little bit below the 20, then bounced. We hit the 20 a little bit, and then tried to rebound again. But in this case, Bitcoin does look a little bit weak. The reason for that is because we had a high that was established up here at 64,000 on Friday. We came down in a lower high and we're continuing to dip here. So we need to get above 62,688 for us to turn back up. If we don't hold this support and get that bounce, I do think we could be coming back down to the 50 EMA towards 61,420. So there's going to be a risk of that potentially happening. So please be very careful. We'll see if support holds. If we hold 62,688, we could try to rebound. If we lose this, we're dipping back down to about 61,417. So watch for that very carefully. I'm seeing some weakness building as we have a lower high here relative to this high. So we might be coming all the way down towards the 61,400 area. For others out there, such as Tesla's doing a good job at holding up, and we're actually on an uptrend so far. So I think what's going to happen is Tesla will eventually try to make its way up to these higher levels like 246, 250, and beyond. However, for the short term, I think that there might be a small dip coming. We could dip a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla comes down towards this 235 area, down to the 20 EMA. We'll see if that holds. If we lose that, then I would be looking for this gap down here to like 229. So we'll see if 235 holds. If not, we could be dipping lower. I think Tesla might dip a little bit more to 235, and then it's going to bounce off that, get back into the 240 area. Or if we lose to 235, we dip down to 229, then we get the bounce. So it's very simple. Tesla's going to most likely dip down to this 20 EMA, then try to rebound off of that. Or if it loses this, it dips a little bit lower to fill this gap, and then we get the bounce. But a dip and a bounce is most likely what's coming to Tesla, in my opinion. I'll be watching for that over the next couple of days. Ren Q, we're kind of flat here, but notice how we have this green 20 EMA. Bounced off this, and we're trying to bounce off this again. If we lose 19,884, we dip back down to fill these imbalances down to 19,740. If we hold support, we could try to rebound into the 20,000s. As of right now, we're holding the trend line very, very nicely. So I think what's going to happen is we could dip a little bit to 19,800 and try to rebound and push back up into the 20,000s. I think there's a good chance of that happening. There are tensions rising around the world, so we'll see if that support holds, but there's a good chance that this holds considering the trend is bullish. We have a nice double bottom, and we're trying to make higher highs and higher lows right over here in this smaller trend here. So it's looking pretty good in my personal opinion. We also broke this resistance here, so there's a good chance this tries to continue to push. However, we could dip a little bit in the morning back into the 19,800 area because of the tensions in the Middle East, but it might not cause anything too crazy if we do get a bounce off that, and we could continue higher from here. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. Essentially, we are dipping a little bit, but we're going to be watching to see this 480 area. If 480 were to fail, we're going to be dipping all the way down to essentially the 478 area. And if that fails us, we're going to be filling this gap towards 476. And if we try to bounce off 485 and break through this, we're looking for basically 488. So what I think is going to happen is we are range bound on the QQQ. We could be retesting this 480 area, then trying to bounce again back into the 485s. Look for a dip and a bounce as the most likely case, and I think that's very, very favorable. For Aapl, Aapl basically hit the high and ended up dipping lower. We have 227 as one of our supports. If that fails us, we're dipping back down towards 225 or so. We also have resistance around 230. I think what's going to happen is Aapl dips a little bit more. We might get very close to this 20 EMA again before it tries to bounce. So look for a little bit of downside for Aapl, a little bit more to 227, if not 225. Then there should be a bounce after that. That is the most likely case in my opinion. So I think the market is going to follow that trend with a little bit of a dip followed by a bounce. And that's what I think is the most likely case. For others out there like Palantir, I think Palantir looks more bullish, especially considering the fact that it's going to be listed on the S&P 500. So what I think is going to happen to this is we look bullish on the 4-hour time frame, but we might gap down tomorrow, start off right over here around this 36.8 area, and we're starting to form a range right here. Notice how we hit 36, we get bought back up, but once we hit the 37s, we get rejected. It's been like that since Tuesday, so it's been going back and forth and back and forth. So we might come down a little bit towards the 36.5 area, then bounce back up, and I think eventually we will attempt to break through this, start pushing for the higher 30s. Look for a dip into the 36.5 area, then a bounce as the most likely cases. For Supermicro, we're also range bound right over here. We have the 460 area as resistance, and then we also have this support at this 436 area. I think that there's a good chance that as we're at this resistance, we start dipping back down towards 449, not to mention 445. We might see a little bit of a dip down here into this range before we try to get bought back up, but overall it's holding up very, very well. So with this being range bound, we could dip a little bit, then we try to rebound as the most likely case, and we'll see how things go from there. For Rivian, this is dumping. It's looking pretty weak right now after bearish news came out. I mentioned to everyone this is going to be dipping all the way down towards the 12 area. We came a little bit below that. So with that being said, we've dipped quite a bit. It is due for a small rebound. We could continue a little bit lower though. We could continue all the way down towards the 11.25 area, all the way down here into the low 11s before we try to rebound. So I think there's a good chance we dip a little bit lower before we see some buyers step in. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For SoFi, we are dipping a little bit. We're looking for basically this 8.03 area. If that fails us, I think we could be coming back down to this imbalance towards 7.86. If we hold 8, we could be looking for a rebound. So there's going to be a big test tomorrow. Do we hold 8.03? My gut tells me it might dip a little bit below this towards the 7.8 area, then bounce back up. Might be a dip and a bounce on this because of the fact that we have a falling wedge structure. So it might continue to dip a little bit more off this wedge than try to bounce afterwards, but I find that to be the most likely case looking at this setup. So that's what I'm seeing for SoFi. For the IWM, it's the same thing. Essentially, we are holding very, very well above our EMAs. It did dip a little bit, but we're looking for a test of our 20 EMA around the 220 zone. We could dip around the 220 area, maybe a little bit lower. 220 to 218 could be tested before we try to rebound. We'll see how things go from here. I just wanted to say that we could dip towards support between 218 and 220. Then we could be bouncing back up towards the resistance around 224. So we'll see how things go. Look for a dip and a bounce is the most likely case, and we'll see how things end up developing right here. So watch and see how the IWM ends up reacting. For AMD, we have this support very close to our 20 EMA. We have resistance around this 158 area and support at 153. If 153 fails us, we're looking for 149. And if we hold support, we're looking for 158. I think what's going to happen is we dip to the lower 150s. We might retest 153. And we'll see if we can bounce off this or not. I think we could dip a little bit and try to rebound. But overall, the trend is bullish. We look very bullish. I think that there's more upside potential trying to get up to these highs. So it might dip a little bit and try to rebound. As long as 153 holds, we should be looking for that bounce. If we lose it, we're looking for 149, but I think we're doing a good job so far. For ARM, we aren't looking that great on ARM because we have kind of like a double top that's developing here. So I think it could dip a little bit more towards 136, very close to the 50 EMA before it tries to bounce. So look for some more downside potential. For Coinbase, we're kind of trading sideways right over here. If we end up losing 167, we're looking for 166. And then if we have resistance at this 175 area, my gut is telling me it's just range bounds. It's going to likely just be stuck for the time being in this range. So I'm not really expecting way too much. But we could be retesting basically the 166 to 167 area, then we try to rebound and just trade sideways for the time being. That's all I'm seeing for a coin. It's getting very, very tight and starting to consolidate, so that's all I'm seeing. For Amazon, we look more bullish. It looks like it wants to go up to about 193, so long as tensions don't really affect this. I think we could dip, retest 190 and start bouncing, and I think we could be looking for 193 as a target to fill that gap. There's a good chance it tries to fill the gap above, so 193 looks very, very possible, in my personal opinion. For Meta, we look more bullish, but just know that the 560 area has a tendency of being very stubborn. So it might not just break out from here. It might not just go up to the 570s very easily. We might see a lot of consolidation, in my opinion. I think that we might see it basically dip back down to 558 to 556, then bounce back up and just continue to consolidate in this range right here before it tries to push up higher later on. But overall, I see some consolidation is the most likely case. For Microsoft, we're also just range bound. We have 442 as our resistance, not to mention 434. We could rebound a bit and start dipping. I think we're going to be retesting the 434 area down here at the 20 EMA. If this fails us, this is going to dip all the way down to 430 because we have kind of like a double top here, and this is like a topping formation. We have a nice range on Microsoft, so it might revisit the lows if we lose the support. So I see more weakness on this compared to like Meta and Amazon, but if we hold 433, we could try to rebound and get back up to like 440. In my opinion, it looks kind of weak here. It's looking like it's showing some weakness. We have kind of like a double top. I think it's going to be dipping a little bit more, and we'll see if support holds. But my gut's telling me it might dip a little bit, so be careful. On the other hand, Google is looking very strong. We have 165 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 166. Breakdown, we're looking for 168. If we were to reject and lose 163, we're looking for that gap fill all the way down here around this 162 area. But nonetheless, we look more bullish on Google. For DJT, DJT has been dipping and dipping and dipping. However, just know that despite how much it's dipped, there's no sign that it's bottomed quite yet. So I think we could be entering the 12.5 area on DJT. I don't think it's done yet. I mentioned this in my earlier video. For the VIX, we're still on a downtrend so far. We still have this gap to fill down here. So I'm thinking maybe it rebounds a bit and starts dipping down to fill this gap. We have a gap all the way down to 15.5, which makes me suspect that the market may pump a little bit more, causing the VIX to dip. Then we have the 10-year treasury yield, which is forming a bullish divergence. If this were to break past the 50 EMA, it might signal that the Fed uh, may shift on policy and continue to do so. But like I said before, this isn't that crazy. It's still kind of consolidating, not really affecting the market as much. The dollar is also not really affecting us as much. It's still kind of flat right now. We're going to be watching to see if we bounce off 101 or 100.5, or if we lose 100.5 and start dipping towards 100 flat. It's just consolidating, so we have to just wait and see what it's doing. Not really affecting the market as much as it usually does. So just be very patient with this. For now, guys, I just want to say that from a technical standpoint, the majority of stocks look like they want to go higher. We may start off with a little bit of a dip because of these tensions, and we'll see if we get a bounce. But even though that's what technical suggests, that's what I find to be more probable. Just know that there's lots of tensions rising around the world, and we'll see if this affects the markets, leading to more fear or not. Sometimes it could affect us, maybe not. It depends on what they want to use as a catalyst. So just in case, make sure you watch your supports just to be safe for all these different levels. And then just know that from a technical standpoint, we remain bullish nonetheless. The bulls are the ones who still have a much bigger edge. Okay, so watch support just to be safe because there are tensions rising. But as the market dips, there's a high probability the market is going to try to bounce. We're most likely going to try to like dip and then bounce. So we'll see how things go. With that being said, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Today is Sunday. It's the last day of the weekend until the market opens again tomorrow. So I just want to say, please, guys, enjoy your weekends. Enjoy time with family and loved ones. Enjoy some football. I hope you guys have a great time. With the markets opening again, we have some time to relax, maybe take our heads away from the market for some time. That's something that I love to do, to just relax and just bring some peace of mind just for some time. So enjoy your day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. Enjoy some football, have fun for the rest of the weekend. I'll be back tomorrow before the market opens to give you guys a preview about what's about to come for the markets. All right. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy your weekend. The market still has more upside potential looking at charts, and we'll see how we end up reacting looking at all these factors around the world. All right. Thank you and peace out.